I started on Wall Street as a secretary, moved up in investment banking, stepped back to be an equity analyst. 8 years later, I quit to produce a TV show, but ended up blogging about work-life issues and co-founding a hedge fund. My career path has been unusual, but it seems to be the new normal. Median job tenure is now 5 years. Baby boomers have held 11 jobs on average, while the percentages of people who stay with the company for at least 10 and 20 years have declined substantially. It may be hard to make sense of these seemingly wanton career moves until you consider the work of a man I met at church, Clayton Christensen, the father of disruptive innovation, an idea that innovators who play where incumbents can't or won't can upend an industry. We know disruptive thinking improves the odds of success for companies. Disruption can also work on a personal level, meaning the people who zigzag best don't do it randomly. Why disrupt? First, to head off the competition. The further you advance in your career, the greater the risk of overshooting demand and being upended by a cheaper version of you. Plus, with personal disruption, compensation is much more than financial. As someone steeped in disruptive innovation, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how we apply it to careers, discussing it with people whose peripatetic paths resemble my own. We all seem to follow 4 rules. First, disruptors look for needs not being met well in places where no one is playing, like Salesforce.com did when it targeted small and medium-sized businesses with simple, inexpensive, cloud-based CRM software. Heather Coughlin gave up an equity sales VP slot at Goldman to launch Hudson Street. Colleagues thought she was crazy to let her pay-in status take a hit, but the operating skills she developed eventually propelled her to the CEO seat at ICE's Parenting. Disruptors don't just look for what they do well, but what they do well that others don't. Take Mexico's América Móvil. Rather than skirmishing with wireline incumbent Telmex for the 20 million people that could afford a landline, América Móvil went after the 80 million people that couldn't. Adam Richardson was working as an industrial engineer at Sun in the 90s when he discovered that first-hand knowledge of customer needs was often missing. By veering from the traditional path to study disciplines like anthropology, his work now blends industrial design with customer insights. When organizations get too big, they often stop exploring smaller opportunities because the resulting revenue won't affect the bottom line enough. People can also plateau, stalling at the top of the S-curve. We avoid that by jumping to a new curve. Dave Blakely began his career at IDEO as an engineer. Early on, he volunteered to become a project manager, which his peers dismissed as an escape route from the rigor of engineering. But the backward move allowed him to begin to climb a new ladder. Today, he's the head of technology strategy. Clay Christensen is another example. At age 40, he left a corporate career to pursue a doctorate. In stepping down, he developed a theory that has changed the business world. Sometimes, a backward move turns into a slingshot. In search of a yet-to-be-defined market, disruptors must be discovery-driven. As Amar Beatty has shown, 70% of all successful new businesses end up with a strategy different from the one they initially pursued. Liz Brown, for instance, once a partner at a law firm, never imagined she'd eventually become executive director at Golden Seeds, one of the largest angel investing networks in the United States. When Sabina Nawaz, a young computer engineer moving quickly up the ranks at Microsoft, received positive feedback about her management skills, she disrupted herself by moving to HR. That was never her ambition, but she let her strategy emerge. When I took a sabbatical from Wall Street, my plan was to produce a TV show. I instead backed a magazine that reached circulation of 100,000 but ultimately failed before I launched a hedge fund, a discovery-driven path to be sure. But buzzword that makes it sound like a breeze notwithstanding, the path of personal disruption is scary and lonely. Yet you know if you don't disrupt, you'll die inside a little, hence the innovator's dilemma. But here's the good news. When a company pursues a disruptive course, the odds of success are 6 times higher and the revenue opportunity 20 times greater. We give a lot of airtime to building and buying disruptive companies. We should. They are vital engines of economic growth. But if you really want to move the world forward, innovate on the inside and disrupt yourself.